Hey there, it's me, and as usual, I'm going to talk about things that I collected that were or were not video games, except for the were not part, because they were all video games. And video game related things, my favorite. So, yeah. I actually got a lot of stuff this month past, because I went to MAGFest with my friends Joe and Dustin and Tyler and Zoe and Steven and Sean, and we all had a fantastic time. And I bought a million things because, well, I saved up money to go to MAGFest. What was I going to do? Not buy a million things? I don't think so. So without further ado, because I could talk about MAGFest forever, but let's talk about the memories I made with my games. Here we go! So first things first, nothing too spectacular here, but I was able to get a couple of Atari 5200 games from a vendor at MAGFest. I picked up Centipede and Real Sports Football, which is called Real Sports Football. Don't be fooled by the football-only title. I always make sure. So yeah, and by the way, that is a label that I made for these because they don't have end labels. When I get N64 cartridges and Atari Jaguar carts, I actually have professionally made vinyl stickers that I use as the end labels for those. And there exist alternatives for the Atari 5200 as well, but I just haven't picked them up yet. So right now it's Label Maker and sticking right on. But yeah, Centipede's a fantastic game. I don't think I need to talk too much about it. It comes out on pretty much everything every year, including your refrigerator. So I didn't have it on 5200, so I needed it. It's a staple. And Real Sports Football, what is any game without its generic sports games? And Real Sports Football is one of them. So there you go. A lot of people don't really collect for Atari 5200. In fact, when I mentioned that I had picked these games up, a friend of mine was like, "Why are you collecting for 5200?" And I responded the same way I respond to any sort of inquiry like that. It's because I have a sickness. And that sickness is video game collecting. So, my buddy Tyler, who went with me to MAGFest along with all of my other friends, Tyler is a game collector just like me, and it just so happens that he's in Canada. Being in Canada, he gets to pick up a couple things for somewhat cheaper, I'd say, than here in America. A lot of the times when he tells me prices, even in Canadian dollars, the price in Canadian dollars is lower than the numeral price in American dollars sometimes, and with the exchange rate that means it's even cheaper in American money. So every now and again I get to hear about deals from him, but it's cool also being friends with a Canadian game collector because, well, we come across deals here in our home countries, and him in Canada, me here, and you know, sometimes we get to pass them on to each other, and that's exactly what Tyler did this time around. He actually gave me a couple of stuff from his collection that he didn't need, and I will talk about those, but that's actually not one of the things I grabbed. While we were at MAGFest, so I just segued into this for nothing, I guess. While we were at MAGFest, Tyler picked up a Sega Dreamcast for himself, which he didn't have, and he needed a visual memory unit, or VMU for short, so he picked one up there as well. And I don't know about you, but I didn't actually realize, I never knew, that visual memory units in the box, totally new and never used before, still with the little pull tab in the battery chamber, aren't actually very expensive. So Tyler bought himself a completely brand new VMU for only like $15. And Tyler, as much as he is a collector just like me, he doesn't collect the boxes. So he gave me the box, the brand new box, for his visual memory unit. This is my very much completely used visual memory unit in the box. I put it in there because now it's protected. And it doesn't have the plastic topper to the ports that go into the Sega Dreamcast controller. I'll have to find one of those, but those by themselves are like really difficult to find. But yeah, check out this box. It's totally new, and other than the time Tyler opened it to put in his thing, or to take out his visual memory unit, and I opened it to put in mine, it has never been touched or used. So this box has been opened a total of 2 times in its entire lifetime. It's got the thing to hang on the retail shelves. But yeah, check it out! It's so cool! I got the box! It's super rad. Alright, also at MAGFest, something just minor that I picked up for a couple bucks because it was just sitting there, is Tomb Raider 3 Adventures of Lara Croft, which I didn't have. I have Tomb Raider 1, and I have Tomb Raider Anniversary for PC, but I didn't have Tomb Raider 3, so I picked it up. There's not much to say. I've never played it, and I don't think I've ever seen gameplay footage of Tomb Raider 3, actually. When I was growing up, a kid who lived across the street from us had a PlayStation and Tomb Raider 1, and I remember going over there and watching him play that, but I've never seen gameplay footage of Tomb Raider 3, so I'm going to experience it completely blind, which is probably the best thing ever, and I can't wait. It's in very good condition, and it even still has the, there's like a, hang on, let me read this with you, because I didn't actually read it myself. It's a membership thing for PlayStation Underground. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but it was like a membership service, and it's still got the card to fill out and everything. That's super cool. Join PlayStation Underground. It's free. Well, I'd love to join, but you guys are defunct now. So yeah, that's really cool that it still has this little membership pamphlet inside here. So I'm going to slide that right back in, and yeah, I'm very, very impressed. Whoever owned this game took very good care of it, I suppose, because otherwise that thing would probably be lost to time. But there it is, everything, and I'm very happy. Just like with anything else, pretty much. You, who know me very well, know that anytime I go to a convention, I try to find Sega Master System games. And wouldn't you know it, I found a Sega Master System game. This is Hang On and Safari Hunt. It was a launch title for the Sega Master System, and let me just tell you, Hang On, pretty damn good. I recommend it. Safari Hunt, mediocre duck hunt, but if you want your light gun fix, then I recommend Safari Hunt. So yeah. Now you might be thinking to yourself, so you got Safari Hunt along with Hang On, and, you know, it's completely in there. I always make sure it's complete. I gotta have my instruction manual. But you're probably thinking to yourself, well, how are you gonna play Safari Hunt if you didn't get the gun, as we used to call it? Everyone just called it the gun. Give me 1 second. The gun. This is the Sega Light Phaser, which is basically the light gun for the Sega Master System. It's the equivalent of the NES Zapper or the Super Scope or what have you, but for Sega Master System. And it's actually pretty cool. It's like totally jet black. This one's in really good condition, and I was able to pick it up at MAGFest. And I actually got it before I picked up Hang On and Safari Hunt. So when I saw it there, I was like, you know what? Now that I finally have the Light Phaser, I might as well pick up Hang On and Safari Hunt. So yeah, I got the gun! I remember being a kid and having friends, and especially my Aunt Catherine, who had the NES, and they had the light gun. And we just called it the gun. That's what we called it. And now, being a collector, hearing people call it the gun makes me cringe a little bit, because there are so many. Which gun do you mean? But yeah, it's the Sega Light Phaser. And it's radical. Are you dead? Alright, let's talk about a couple newer games, because new games come out and I have to pick them up. I went to Target this past month in January and got New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. Very happy about that. And of course, everybody was anticipating with bated breath the release of Kingdom Hearts 3, which I also picked up. And I like Kingdom Hearts, but I admit I haven't played very many of the games. So I'm in for some big surprises, but I will try my very best to catch myself up. It's going to be a while before I can even touch this, to be honest, because I have a backlog of things to play. And that bothers me, because when am I going to play this? Who knows? It's going to sit on my shelf for a while. But the good news is, I can play it when the hype has died down, so people won't talk to me about it and spoil things. Unfortunately, I have some friends who can be assholes about that sort of thing. Not much to say about these, because if I talked about them, I'd spoil things, even though this game is a port of a game that was released a million years ago. Even still, people are playing this for the first time. Not going to talk about it. And then there's Kingdom Hearts 87, also known as 3. And I bought them, and now they're mine. What would the world be without handheld games? Boring, I think. You know how long those train rides are in the city? Jeez. That's why I picked up some handheld games, and also, you know, video game collector, gotta catch them all. So, these are actually pretty good games, to be honest. I mean, I try my best when I'm at conventions to get stuff that I know that I both need and also want to play. So this time, I did that. There were a couple things thrown in here, though, that, 2 things to be exact, that I looked at and went, you know what, I should have that, but I just don't. So, let's start with those, actually. At MAGFest, I got Tasmania 2 for Game Boy, which apparently almost no one has played. I grew up playing Tasmania 1. My mom bought it for me when I was really, really young. It was one of my first Game Boy games, and I loved it. I played the shit out of it. And I didn't know this game existed for the longest time. I think I only learned about it like a year or 2 ago, and I added it to my pickups list. And sure enough, it was just a couple bucks at MAGFest, so I got it. And I haven't played it yet, but I'm excited because this is the sequel to my childhood, basically. Another game I got in that same category of didn't really want to play it so much as to just have it because it's a staple, or at least I think it is, Kix for Game Boy. Kix is an arcade game that I love, actually. I don't know how well it fares on Game Boy because I haven't played it yet except for testing. But yeah, it's Kix. It's an arcade game. I can't say too much about it, but if you've ever played Jezball for Microsoft Windows 3.1, then you have played Kix. That's a clone of Kix. And as far to my knowledge, this is a Nintendo-published copy of Kix, which is super cool and super weird because Nintendo doesn't own the rights to Kix, but I guess they were like, let's put Kix out on the Game Boy. And they did. But yeah, Tyler, again, was with us at MAGFest, and he gave me some doubles. So one of the things I got from him was The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, 4 Swords. And I have never played 4 Swords, actually, at least not the Game Boy Advance version. A long time ago, in the before time, and what I mean by that is like 2013, 14, if you were a Nintendo ambassador, you could, or I think it was like a Nintendo like Gold Rewards member or something like that. I don't even remember. That's how unimportant it was, but I'll have to figure it out and look it up for myself. You could actually download an anniversary edition of The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords with single-player functionality for your Nintendo 3DS, and I did. And then that game went completely off the market because it was just for that purpose. So I own a copy of a game that very few people probably own or have played, and I'm happy about that. But that game is a single-player edition of 4 Swords, which originally came out on this cartridge, which I never played. It's multiplayer only, and I never had friends who cared about Zelda or had link cables so we could play together. I had a link cable, but at that time, I only owned one Game Boy Advance. So it wasn't going to happen. Yeah. But I'm happy to own it now, not just because of 4 Swords, but also because it has A Link to the Past, a game that I love, and now I can play it on the go. And I can't tell you how amazing that feels, even as an adult, to know that I can play one of my favorite games on the go. Emulation be damned. I can play A Link to the Past wherever I am, on my Game Boy Advance. Complete with the ear-grating Wind Waker sound effects that they decided to add in. But it's the same game, so I'm happy. I also got at MAGFest Mega Man 3 for Game Boy, which for some reason I didn't have, because the Mega Man Game Boy games are expensive and elusive. I have Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge, and I have Mega Man 2 for Game Boy, and now I have Mega Man 3. They wanted a pretty penny for it, but I bundled it with some other things, and they got less of a penny from me. I'm happy. And last but not least, a vendor was selling very cheaply this copy of Mega Man 04. So now I have 1, and 2, and 4. I'm missing 3, and I have to get it, but I will, and when I do, I can experience the entire series in its glory, and then I can move on to, like, the ZX series, and then Star Force, and then I can die happy. And I think that's it for the handheld stuff. Yep. Let's move on. Tyler was kind enough to also give me, as one of the doubles that he brought from Canada, Resident Evil 4, which was in a very beaten-up case, but he assured me if I could find a case suitable to fit it, he wouldn't mind my fixing up that case. And I don't know why he would, but I like to check anyway, just because you never know. Resident Evil 4 is a double-disc game, though, so finding a double-disc case proved to be a challenge. But you know me, I'm on top of the game. So now, it's in a nice-looking case, and it's fully complete because Tyler is cool. And, yeah, this is a Canadian copy, as evidenced not only by the French on the back, but you can find that on American copies, too, but also because it says Seulement pour right here on the top, next to only for, because Canada speaks French. And at MAGFest, I also picked up Crash Bandicoot: The Wrath of Cortex for PlayStation 2, which I would have preferred on GameCube, but being used to playing the original 3 Crash games on PlayStation 1, I thought it more fitting to pick it up on PlayStation 2, so I would have the exact same control scheme. And, yeah, I used to rent this game from Blockbuster for my GameCube back in the day. And, yeah, GameCube rentals from Blockbuster, they were like, that was just about when they were going out of business. But, yeah, PlayStation 2, probably a better version. I grew up with GameCube, though, so I guess that's why I preferred it, but this will be a better experience, at least I think so. But, yeah. Okay, let's get this one out of the way, because it's a little heavy. Tyler, if you're watching this, thanks for bringing me doubles of tons of different games, up to and including a Model 1 Sega Genesis that I don't deserve, but you're super cool. Thank you for just giving this to me. It really means a lot. I never had a Model 1 Genesis. My first Genesis was the Model 2, and then on this show, I guess you can call it, I think it was my very first collection pickup video ever, I showed that I had acquired a Genesis Model 3. And now here I am with the Model 1, and I'm very happy about it. It's probably the best looking Genesis, to be honest. It's all beefy, and it screams 16-bit right in your face. It has a headphone jack on the console, and a volume slider. Like, fucking what? Yeah. High definition. Anyway, I'm happy this thing exists. Probably better off using this when I finally get a Sega CD, because then I can get a Sega CD Model 1, which actually sits underneath the Genesis, so it only still takes up this much horizontal space. With a Model 2 Genesis, the Sega CD sits on the side, and it takes up a little more horizontal space, so this will probably be my go-to unless I'm able to pick up a JVC XI sometime in the next couple months, which is on my radar. Let's be hopeful. But Tyler, thank you so much. I'm probably not going to play on this Genesis until I get a Model 1 Sega CD, but at the very least, it sits wonderfully on my shelf, overlooking the rest of my games and letting me know that I own every single model of Sega Genesis ever released. Thank you. Okay, so here's a little bit of a story. When Tyler and I, well, all of my friends really, but I spent a lot of my time with Tyler because we were collecting a lot. So when Tyler and I were there at MAGFest, it was the second day of MAGFest, and we decided to go to the dealer floor and pick up our first round of games for our collections. And there was this one booth that was like, hey, we have these blind bags with 3 NES games and a blind bag with 3 Super Nintendo games. What do you think? And we were like, how much? And they were like, it's $12. Or actually, no, I think it was $15 or something for the NES grab bag and $15 for the SNES grab bag. But if you got 2 bags, it would only be 25 bucks. So Tyler and I split the difference, and we paid 12.5 each. And we decided to open them up and do a little bit of a draft. Anything that I already own, Tyler gets. Anything that Tyler already owns, I get, and then the remaining games, one and one, basically. So, we did, and we opened up the NES bag first, and there was an Iron Sword inside, which I already had, so Tyler got that, and Mario Duck Hunt, which, I mean, that's kind of like a, oh cool, Mario Duck Hunt in a blind bag. Great. but actually Tyler didn't own it, like an idiot. Sorry, buddy. So he got that too, because I already had it. And then we opened up the Super Nintendo bag, and there was like some weird off-roading Super Nintendo game, and nobody had that one, so that got placed into the pile. The last NES game in the pile was Bigfoot, which I had never heard of before, so that got placed in the pile. NBA Jam was the second Super Nintendo game, and Tyler already had that, so I got it. And then the last game was Animaniacs. So we did a little bit of a draft, and Tyler was like, I don't want Bigfoot, you can have Bigfoot. So I got Bigfoot from the NES grab bag. And of course, I got NBA Jam because Tyler already owned it. So the last two games remaining were Animaniacs and Off-Road, or whatever it was called, some weird, dumb Super Nintendo game. And so I had 2 games, Tyler had 2 games, there were 2 games in the pile. And we decided rock, paper, scissors, best 2 out of 3 wins Animaniacs, because who the fuck wants that other one? So we rock, paper, scissors, and I don't remember the exact outcomes of the first 2 games, but I won one, and then Tyler won one. And then we tied 3 times in a row for the final one. Scissors and scissors, scissors and scissors, scissors and scissors. And then finally, I beat Tyler with a rock when he threw scissors again. And I won Animaniacs. I wish I had that on video because it was pretty heated, actually. Like, we were like, really into it, just trying to get this Animaniacs card, because who the fuck wants that other game? But yeah, so I got those 3 games, and I'm very happy that I beat Tyler at rock, paper, scissors. That was probably the highlight of the collecting at MAGFest, to be honest, because it was like, I don't know, video worthy, but we didn't film it, and I'm kind of sad that we didn't. But yeah. Na 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 na, fucking neener neener. Of course, there were a couple of other NES games that I picked up at MAGFest because I had to. I picked up Castellian, which is a port of, I think it's a PC game actually, or maybe it was an arcade title called Nebulous, but it's Castellian. It's like a tower climbing game where you play as a frog. I've always wanted this game, so I finally picked it up, and I'm really happy I did. I also got a staple of the NES library, Cobra Triangle. Fuck that shark, man. Fuck that shark. Cobra Triangle's great, and I'm really happy to finally own it because, again, it's a staple of the NES library. I also got Spot the video game, which is not the same game as Cool Spot for Super Nintendo and Genesis. It's a totally different game. Spot the video game for NES. I've actually never played it before. Kind of always wanted it because I really like those quirky mascot platformer games that different food companies came out with to capitalize on the video game market. So, like, Spot, there's Chester Cheetah games and fucking Pepsi Man and shit like that. Spot the video game. I was really happy to pick that up. But probably my favorite find at MAGFest was an unlicensed NES game that's actually really, really hard to find, and they didn't have it for a very expensive price either. So I totally picked it up. And it's Mermaids of Atlantis, which Mermaids of Atlantis has some history. Not only is it an unlicensed game, it is a clone of another unlicensed game by the same company, I'm pretty sure. And the original game was called Bubble Bath Babes, and it was a pornographic puzzle game. This is the same game with all of the pornographic elements censored / drawn over. So I own a censored porn game. Hooray. It's actually pretty fun, to be honest. The puzzle elements are pretty fun and challenging. But I'm just more happy that I own this in general, because it's pretty rare. And what can I say? Rare games are my specialty. That's why I still don't have so many goddamn commons. But yeah. I picked up some other NES games, though, too. Let's talk about those next. So before, I have talked about being part of Long Island Retro Gaming on Facebook, and I get a lot of deals from there. And this past month, somebody was like, I really need some money, so I'm doing a fire sale, which basically means, here's a game, here's its regular price, fuck that price, here's a really good price, because I need the money and I need this shit gone. So I took advantage, and I got 3 games that I wanted in my collection. The first one, Star Voyager. really happy to own this. It's a pretty damn good game, at least I think so. I played it a lot growing up with a friend of mine who had an NES. I really enjoyed it, so I'm happy to pick that up. This dude, Tom, sold me all 3 of these games. I met him with my buddy Joe at East End Gaming in Oakdale here on the island. And he was super cool. He gave them to me in dust covers. Very good guy. And yeah, so Star Voyager. Then also one of my favorite sports games, actually. I guess it's a sports game for a Nintendo Entertainment System. 720 Degrees, or whatever you want to call it, 720, because that's how they would say the move in snowboarding. It's a snowboarding action game for Nintendo Entertainment System, and this copy that he gave me actually came with a manual, which I'm really happy about. And it's in really good condition. Whew. This is one of those manuals that really doesn't have very many photographs in it. It's all just text, which is okay. But when you're a kid and you open up your game and you want you want to read the instruction manual on your way home from your KB Toys or Toys R Us or whatever, you want to see them pictures, man. No such luck unless you like the only picture in this manual, unless you count the diagram of the NES controller on the very first page. But yeah, and the last game, and I'm happy to have this even though this game kind of sucks a little bit, is Back to the Future for NES. And this also came with the manual, and he put it in a little protective case for me. I'm not going to bother opening it because I'm probably not going to read it on camera. But yeah, it's in really good condition too. Look at that stupid fucking rainbow. They made bad games, LJN. But still happy to own this. It's in great condition, and what a bad game. It belongs in the trash. My trash. Alright, so more MAGFest things, right? Because I spent $1 million there. I bought a bunch of Super Nintendo games at MAGFest. And I'll start with probably my favorite one. Why not? Save the best for first. I got a pretty cheap copy of Rockman and Forte for the Super Famicom. A lot of people out there might remember this game better as Mega Man and Bass on Game Boy Advance, because that's how we got it in North America. But it was originally a Super Famicom game called Rockman and Forte, because Rockman and Forte are respectively Mega Man and Bass's Japanese names. It's the same game, just bigger screen, doesn't have to scroll in and pan out, so probably the definitive version. I recommend picking it up if you have either a Super Famicom or another way to play it for any reason. You could also modify your Super Nintendo, but I don't like doing that. You do what you want, though. Just don't tell me about it. But holy crap, really happy to have found this. Really happy, actually. Plock! Plock's a great little quirky platformer from back in the day. And I think it's a hidden gem on the Super Nintendo, actually. I used to emulate it a lot because somebody recommended it to me. So now I own it, finally. I'm really happy. A game that I used to get at Blockbuster a lot, and I thought it was kind of cool. Sim Ant. Probably what people might think just looking at the cover is probably the most boring sim game, but we don't judge games by their covers here on this show, and Sim Ant fucking rocks. I recommend watching the Pro Jared video on it if you don't want to play it yourself, or you at least kind of want to know what it's about. Not only is it a sim game where you get to build the colony and feed the colony and help the colony, but you're fighting against the opposing color ant. There's red ants versus black ants, and you gotta beat the shit out of them. And you can actually win the game by wiping out all of the other ant colony. So this is a sim game you can actually win. So there's a goal. So play it. You can beat it. It's not just a waste of your time. And last but not least, a game that is a waste of your time, Populous. Another sim game, although not in the Sims franchise. It's one of the earliest examples of the God video game, where you create a civilization and you do with that civilization as you please. This was on like a million different home computers, but was ported to Super Nintendo, and I like console games a little better than PC games, so I opted to pick it up here. Because, yeah, since it's one of the earliest God games, it does have some learning to do, and it is a little bit difficult to get the hang of, but it's pretty fun, and it was pretty popular when it came out on PCs back in the day, so I'll be happy to play this. And you should too. It's pretty fun, at least I think so. But yeah, I picked up other Super Nintendo games too. Just like with the NES, I broke it up into two categories, one for in MAGFest, one for out of MAGFest. And I'm going to do the same with these Super Nintendo titles. These ones are the MAGFest ones. Let's talk about the ones I got outside of MAGFest. So a buddy of mine that I went to high school with, we weren't really the closest friends, but in more recent years, we've gotten a little bit closer. We talk occasionally, and one day he just hit me up on Facebook and said, hey, I have a couple Super Nintendo games, and he sent me a picture and said, I just want to offload these and get rid of them. Do you want to buy them? And I spotted a couple of them that I was like, oh, well, I mean, I don't have too much money on me right now, so unfortunately I can't get all the ones that I want from this pile, but what will you do for these three? And he went, you know what, just, I need to get rid of these. Give me $15 and you can have the entire photo, like all of them. And I zipped right over there, and I got a ton of great Super Nintendo games. I'll talk about the ones that I asked about first, and then we'll talk about the ones that I got anyway, because he's a good dude. So, two of the ones that I don't have here anymore, because I offloaded them myself because they were doubles that I didn't need, were The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past and Super Star Wars. I gave those to my local retro game store, the Video Game Trading Post. And there was actually a third copy, third game, I should say. It was Super The Empire Strikes Back, which I already had, so I mailed that out to my buddy Tyler as a thank you for giving me so many doubles, and he didn't have it, so it's definitely worth giving to him. So the three games that I inquired about from Brian's post were Micro Machines, which I've wanted for a while now. It's a pretty decent game, and it's fun, especially with another player. Stunt Race FX, a Nintendo-published pseudo 3D racing game in the same vein as, like, Virtual Racer for Sega Saturn, but on this, and it's not super good, but yeah. And one of my favorite puzzle games ever, and I almost just dropped it right there, one of my favorite puzzle games ever that I owned for NES, but never owned it for Super Nintendo, Yoshi's Cookie. I actually rip shit at Yoshi's Cookie. It's fucking great, and I'm fucking good at it. And I'm sorry for swearing so much, but Yoshi's Cookie is radical. If you've never played it, I recommend it, actually. I think... No, I'm sorry. Yoshi, the puzzle game, just Yoshi, is available on Nintendo Switch Online. I don't think Yoshi's Cookie is, but it should be. And I hope that it is. But either way, Yoshi's Cookie on Super Nintendo. It's great. I love it very much. One of my favorite puzzle games ever. And then these other three games that I was not really super interested in, but I didn't have them, so when he said $15 for the whole basket, sure, I'll take them. Star Trek: The Next Generation Futures Past. No idea what this game is or what it's about, but it's a Star Trek game, so I'm sure that I'll enjoy it. Top Gear, no relation to the television show of the same name. It's a racing game, I can only assume. And Desert Strike: Return to the Gulf, which actually also came out on Sega Genesis. I think it was an arcade title originally. So yeah, it's cool to have this, even though I wasn't super interested in it. But when I went over my pickups list to see if any of these games would be taken off of it, this game was actually on there. So I must have at one point thought, I need that, and put it on there. But I just don't remember doing so. But with that said, that means I checked one more item off of my pickups list without even knowing I was going to. So yeah, happy about that too. And thank you, Brian, for giving me these games for next to nothing just because you needed to get rid of them. And I already said to you in person, but I am still very thankful that you thought of me first to offload these games to. It means a lot. Honestly, it does. Thank you so much. Let's talk about other games. Alright, so when I was at MAGFest, I told all my friends, and especially Tyler, that the one thing that I wanted to buy at MAGFest more than anything else and needed to leave with, I couldn't spend any money until I bought this, was a Sega Saturn. And sure enough, I couldn't find one on day one, and I couldn't find one on day two either. So I ended up buying other things, so it wasn't the first thing that I spent money on. But on day 3, I actually managed to find one, and it was not very expensive, actually. It was around normal retail price. And I thought to myself, I don't have a Saturn. I need one. I'm going to pick it up. It's not going to be any cheaper if I pick it up here than if I just bought it off eBay, but at least I won't have to wait for it, and I won't have to worry about whether or not it gets damaged during shipping. So guess what I did? Well, first I knocked over some games over there, and I opened the Saturn. But look, it's that Saturn. I bought a Sega Saturn. And what good is a Sega Saturn without a Sega Saturn controller? And I keep opening the blasted Saturn because the open button is like gigantic and it's right on the front of the console. To my knowledge, this is the Model 2 Saturn controller. Whatever. I'm just glad it came with one, because how else am I going to play it? I hate this D-pad with a passion. It sucks. And these shoulder buttons, would you even know these were shoulder buttons if I didn't tell you? They don't look like it. And they have... I don't know if you can hear this. It's this really shitty clicking noise. Especially with the music I'm going to put over this. I don't know if you can hear that. But trust me, they're clicking, and it's a really shitty click. It's like a mouse click almost. So, ugh. But anyway, let's put them down here. Whew. You see that stack of games right there? Those are some of the last things I picked up at MAGFest, because how can you play a Sega Saturn without Sega Saturn games? Super immediate jump cut. Bam, Sega Saturn games. So many. Alright, let's go through them one at a time. Now, here's the thing. Right? Look at all these Saturn games. There's only 6 here. But would you believe me if I told you that this was still every single North American Sega Saturn game at MAGFest? Well, you should believe me, because I did a sweep every single day at multiple times. I asked every vendor, and given all of the information I got and the games that I purchased, beyond a reasonable doubt, Tyler and I, and all of my friends, all believe firmly that I single-handedly purchased every North American Sega Saturn game at MAGFest. And I'm very proud of that. So let's go through them. First up, we have Virtua Cop. It's a light gun game, but you can actually play it without the light gun. The light gun's called the Stunner for the Sega Saturn. And I didn't pick it up because nobody had it. But yeah, Virtua Cop. This game, actually, I got alongside Slam & Jam 96 featuring Magic and Kareem, because the dude who was selling these two games was like, I don't want these, no one's ever going to buy them. And he discounted both of them incredibly just to offload them to me. What a dude. So of course, I took the offer. I also got Starfighter for Saturn, which came with this sticker on the plastic overlay that says, new features for Sega Saturn. Usually I will take stickers off of the plastic overlay, but I have been assured, based on research done when I got home from MAGFest, that that sticker is supposed to be there, and was there during its initial retail release, so I'm keeping it there. And then just some fucking shitty-ass car games, because you have to pad out your collection if you want it to look nice, right? So I got NASCAR 98, wow, cool. I got F1 Challenge, cool, wow. And I got Sega Sports Daytona USA, probably the best one in the bunch of the car games. But still, cool, wow, geez, oh wow, cool. But yeah, with that being said, I purchased every single North American Sega Saturn game that was for sale at MAGFest. I also seem to have purchased the only Sega Saturn available at MAGFest. That's cool. But yeah, I'm super happy with this turnout. One last jump cut, shall we? MAGFest was a delight. I was really happy to have finally gone, and I'm really happy that I picked up all these great games. I could go on and gush about how it was lovely to spend time with my buddy Tyler and my friends Joe and Dustin, to see Sean because he came up from Florida to go with us, to see Zoe, Dustin's girlfriend, and Steven, a mutual friend of mine and Zoe's, who I really only met for the first time there, but we became very good friends. It was fantastic. I even made 2 new friends, Noah and Raven, because we bumped into each other by accident so many damn times at MAGFest that we just decided to hang out. And we traded information, and we even went to a Garfield party together. Because weird shit happens at MAGFest. But yeah, if you guys are watching this, thanks for watching all the way to the end. I'm sorry that I didn't mention you sooner, but I had games to talk about. But anyway, yeah. This was a fantastic turnout. I got a bunch of great games that I'm super happy about. And now it's February. February is the month of my birth. I was born on the 9th, which means that I'm going to get some games, either because of birthday money or because of birthday gifts. And I've already gotten a couple of great things, because February is the month where I treat myself, bitch. So yeah, thanks for watching another pickup video of mine. I'm really happy you're still around, and I'm really happy I'm still not broke somehow. Anyway, catch you guys later. Take it easy.